You sound good?
Perfect. Yeah,
Cool.
you're good to go. Yeah.
All right. Nice to meet you, Ryan.
You too. Yeah.
So before we get into your life and all of the things that make who you are and what you do for a living, I want to know, how did you get through COVID? It was quite a time for 3 years that we had to get through. How did you get through it? And how has it changed the way that you conduct business and live life now?
Yeah, good question, Joe. I think what really got me through COVID, I'm a big believer in wellness. Health and wellness is kind of a focal point of my life, as we'll unpack. But when COVID hit, I was just like every other average person. My job went remote, gyms closed down, and I live in Canada, so it's quite cold, even in March, which is when everything kind of happens. So I really had to turn inward and look kind of at myself and what do I need to thrive? What do I need to survive to get through this? And so I kind of changed a few things in my life and kept one thing I kept really consistent was my health and fitness routine, working out 3 to 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, all seasons, and eating good and just focusing on the basics. Like, okay, let's eat healthy. What does that look like for us now? What does our social life look like now, and how do we remain social? So I really took a lot of time to take stock of that, and then, yeah, I think when I came out of COVID on the backside, I think I was very grateful that I made a lot of those changes and pivots in my life because yeah, just I was very fortunate, I guess, to be aware that things are changing really quick and that I needed to change too, and then I embrace that change to get through.
So let's get to the heart and soul of exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. One of the kids looks up at you and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah, I would say for that grade three out there listening, or yeah, what do I do? I guess I kind of live, work, and play at the intersection of the wellness industry, education, and entrepreneurship. So, like, if there was kind of a playground and there were those three different types of play equipment, I would be bouncing around between those three types of playground equipment, and I'd be having a blast doing it.
Well said. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Yeah, when I was in my third grade, I think I just at that point I really liked pizza, and I had a crush on my teacher at the time. So I didn't really know what I wanted to be, but I think when I got a little bit older, middle school definitely, and into high school, I knew that this idea of being physically active every day and being well. What does this mean? Like, what does this look like? And, when I was a kid, I was actually diagnosed with chronic migraines at 12. And as part of this study, just really quick, I'll share as part of the study to kind of investigate, well, what's causing these migraines. And what I found through this study, I basically journaled my sleep, my eating, and my physical activity every day. And the days that I wasn't active and the days that I didn't eat that great, I also didn't sleep well, and I was more prone to getting these migraines. And so at 12 years old, that's pretty foundational stuff to learn about
Yeah.
yourself. And so that really changed the trajectory of my life. And then as I went through high school, really knew I wanted to have some sort of a career in this space that kept me active and allowed me to maybe share a little bit of that and the importance of wellness with others.
That's interesting. And you kind of answered my next question, but I want to dig a little deeper into where you were born and raised and beyond, being very cognizant early on of your health and fixing it. That's pretty heavy at 12. What were
Yeah.
some of the other seeds that were put into you that made you want to help other people today?
Yeah, I think, I grew up in a small town, and it was a hardworking town, blue collar town, like most of your listeners probably have stories like that. Um, and I felt really alone at times just because, if I wasn't out working in a trade, for example, I wasn't really involved in the industry and the community. It was a very trade heavy community. And I was more into books, and I was more into going out for a 5K run and then stretching and, cooling down and having dinner with mom and dad. So I was very fortunate to have a really supportive home environment. But in my community, I just felt like I was the only one that was really passionate about this. And so when I left that community, that was really part of my mission of how do I share these messages with other people, because as you know, as we know now as adults, like there's plenty of people in the world that want to either seek out more ideas for to support their well-being. I mean, it's a $56 billion industry alone in North America, so it's massive. And so stepping outside of that small community into the global community really made me appreciate that there's more folks out there like me, and that it's important to share these messages, and to know that folks aren't alone in pursuing that.
So who in this pursuit of your career and your life has been kind of a hero for you?
Yeah, I would say there's a few people I definitely look up to. One is my dad. He is a steady hand, consistent. He's in great shape for his age, and really active. And he's embraced this new season of retirement. So I really look up to him and his longevity. And then I really enjoy the sport of football. So there's a Hall of Fame coach, Super Bowl winning coach, Tony Dungy, who coached Indianapolis Colts back in the day, and I believe the Buccaneers. And I've read pretty much all of Tony's books. I was actually chatting with his co-author the other day, and he's just someone I want to sit down and have dinner with. Like is just again a very steady, good role model, and yeah, just I think somebody that when I was growing up and I was reading his books and thinking about team dynamics and how to win Super Bowls and how to create, strong young men, that those books really resonated with me when I was growing up. And so, yeah, I think he'd be somebody I'd sit down with for sure.
You got a real two birds with one stone approach with me. You're answering the questions I'm getting ready to groom into because I was going to ask who you'd want to meet, anybody alive on the planet, and I would imagine it's Tony.
Yeah, I'd say definitely Tony, for sure. And another one would be Robin Sharma. He's another one of my favorite authors as well. So if anybody's read his books, totally recommend them. He's fantastic.
So every day you wake up, you have this motivation to do your job and to do it at the best of your ability. What is your motivator? What is the flame on your torch that makes you go and do what you do?
Yeah, this is something that I write about quite a bit, Joe, and it's actually coming up in my next book, which is going to be released later this year, 2023. Is this idea of just adding value daily. And, we grow up in a society in schools where a lot of what we achieve is based on merit, right? So you answer this math equation right, you're therefore going to receive these marks on your math test. And that's great. I think we need that. But I also believe that in a career, and as you go through your life in a free market, adding value is the most important thing. When times are tough, adding value is going to push your business through that market. In schools, finding creative ways, or finding ways to teach kids to be creative about how they add value and being their authentic self, I think is so important. And so in my life, what keeps me going is the fact that I just add value daily to whatever it is that I'm working on, whether it's a book, whether it's jumping on a podcast with you, whether it's being present with my partner when she gets home from her work, or whether it's working to support the education community that I support full time. So yeah, I think I've been really blessed, Joe, to align my passion with my profession. And I know that's not the reality for most folks, but that's something I've worked really hard to do. And because I have that alignment, I feel like it's pretty easy day to day to kind of get up and add that value, and stay motivated for a long career in it.
What are you the proudest of that you've done so far in your life?
Yeah, it's funny. I was doing a keynote a few weeks ago, and it was a room of 250 students, and one of the students asked me this, and what's funny is the first time I'd ever been asked that, and without hesitation, I said it was my marriage, and I would say that's the case today. You know, the fact that my wife is my wife is a miracle. I think I don't even have matching socks most days, but the fact that we're going on 5 years strong is incredible, and I'd say that's definitely the biggest accomplishment over all my books and everything else I've done. That for sure is the best.
So as you look over your life, you've gone down a lot of roads, overcome a lot, accomplished a lot. If you were to have a dream tonight, run into a younger version of yourself, say a 20-year-old version, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained up to this point, what would you tell that young version of you?
Yeah, I would I would go back and tell that young version that this idea of failing forward. Like I think growing up, I spent a lot of time worrying about failure, like putting myself out there, well, what if I fail? And even when I published my first book, I was 29 and I was terrified because I'm like, am I too young? Am I going to fail? Like what happens if it fails? I got stuck in that thinking quite a bit, um, and so I would go back and tell my younger self, just fail forward. Like it's not going to be perfect. Like I had to go back and update my book, and I learned a lot along the process. And then my next one was better. And just like in business, right? Your first prototype is maybe not your best, and put it out in the world, add the value, send the value out, and then refine it along the way. And I think that's something that I would definitely teach my younger self for sure.
So everyone has a perception of you. You have all these people in your life, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you're in control of your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm a husband. I would say beyond that, I'm someone that it's going to sound a little corny. It's going to sound like we're in, some sort of a contest maybe, but I really do want to leave the world in a better place. And I believe books are a great way to do that. I think that in a digital age, books, opening up a physical book is equally as valuable and as important as it's ever been. And I think that, even when I publish a book, I think about how is this impacting one individual out there? And if it does impact one individual, it's worth everything. And that's kind of what drives me and what continues to drive me and kind of makes me who I am. And I think that's why I love kind of wearing that author identity a little bit, is because I know that somewhere in the world at some point someone's reading a page of my book, and it's going to meet them hopefully where they're at, inspire them to maybe make a small change in their life or to think about their life a little bit different. And that to me is hopefully leaving the world in some better place than when I found it, through sharing that knowledge. So that's definitely why I do what I do and who I am, I guess, day to day.
So what's been one of the best notes or fan letters you've gotten from your books?
Oh, that's a good question. It was early on in my when I published my second book. I had this incredible social media influencer who picked it up, and she was sharing all kinds of videos and stories, and it was just so good. I think there was one message she shared around like how she just took a message from my book on Instagram and just distilled it and applied it to her life. And I'd have to go back to find the exact words, but it was just a moment in my life where I'm like, books do make a difference. And, putting yourself out there is important, and being vulnerable in your writing or in your speaking or however you express it, whether it's art or music, is so important. But that one for sure really stood out to me. The words exactly escaped me, but it was a really good video. It's on my Instagram page if folks wanna go there and take a look.
Ryan, this has been great. Thank you for opening up. Before we get out of this door here, tell everybody where they can go to hire you or learn more about you and your company.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So definitely go to Foy Consulting. It sounds like Fahey Consulting. So if you just Google Fahey Consulting, it's the first one that pops up. So you can connect me there through my website, and then definitely on social media. I don't know if people are still on Twitter or what's happening with Twitter, but I'm still there. And so at WellnessRF on Twitter as well.
Right on, Ryan. This has been great, man. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for your time. Happy trails, man. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Joe. You too.
Take care.